Is there anything better than knowing that one of your top 2 authors of all time has a new book out? Yes, there absolutely is, and that is holding this new book in your hands. Also, welcome to a brand new reading vlog in which I will be reading my most anticipated book of 2024, which is Matt Haig's The Life Impossible. This was predictably top of my most anticipated books of 2024 list, and if you've been here long enough, you'll know why that is. Matt Haig is a top 2 author for me, and I think everybody who knows me knows that fact. And it's not like I haven't come on here and not cried over his books, right? There's literally video evidence of me crying. You've seen me bawl. And now I have his newest book, and oh my god, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe I have this book in my hands, that I'm holding this book after months and months of watching bookstagrammers and booktubers receive arcs of this book and me just FOMOing the heck out of there. When I received this book, it tipped me over. Like, I burst into tears, and again, there's video evidence of it. I'm just so happy to have this. It's just like... So a huge thank you to Cannon Gate Books and Allen and Unwin for obliging my request, and I cannot wait to start reading this. Okay, before I absolutely lose my mind, not that I haven't already lost it, as you can see, here's what the book is about, and I'm going to read the blurb. Okay, the blurb is not on the back, it's here inside. What looks like magic is simply a part of life we don't understand yet. When retired maths teacher Grace is left a run-down house on a Mediterranean island by a long-lost friend, curiosity gets the better of her. She arrives in Ibiza with a one-way ticket, no guidebook and no plan. Among the rugged hills and golden beaches of the Balearics, Grace searches for answers about her friend's life and how it ended. What she uncovers is stranger than she could have dreamed, but to dive into this impossible truth, Grace must first come to terms with her past. Filled with wonder and wild adventure, this is a story of hope and the life-changing power of a new beginning. Hi, I have been reading The Life Impossible, as you've seen, and in the very first page I started crying. I mean, this has happened in the 35 pages that I have been reading. It has happened multiple times, and it has made me rethink a lot of things that I know about my own life, and it has made me rethink my own behavior, my own reasons for whatever I did in the past, and etc, etc, etc. And that is the power that Matt Haig holds. Okay, but for it to happen on the very first page, it kind of knocked me. Okay, look at this. I look at what is happening in the world and I see that our whole species is on a path to destruction, like it is programmed, another pattern. And I just get fed up with being a human, being the small tiny thing that cannot do anything about the world. Everything feels impossible. Look at what's happening in the world. The world is burning. It's going to crap. And there are rapes happening. There's a genocide happening. There's people starving. There the people who are supposed to be taking care of the people, the governments and the people in the government. All of them are doing their own thing. They're pushing their own agendas, like selfish. It just made me so emotional because this isn't something that can be rectified like this. Millions of such people have to come together in order for it to make any difference. But the level of evil in this world is such that no matter what these good people do, evil is suppressing it like no other, and that pisses me off afresh every single day. I hate it. I hate it here. I know that that's not the point of The Life Impossible, and I know that somehow I'm going to rediscover my love for life through this book. I don't know how that is. Maybe I need an external source. I need an external power to pull me out of the depths of despair that I find myself in from time to time. Maybe this is going to be that last power. I mean, there are multiple right now working away at my brain, at my insides. Maybe this is going to be that the straw that maybe didn't break the camel's back, it put it together and it was the final nail. Okay, I'm using all depressing metaphors and phrases, but you know what I mean, right? Anyway, so I'm going to just share with you a couple of quotes that resonated with me so hard. It's not fair. As you get older, patterns become harder to break and you don't want them to break. And there's this next thing which the comparison between these things sort of threw me because it was so genius. A voice like it had only come out of the fridge and needed time to soften. And this is a solicitor's voice that he's talking about. Cold, detached, frozen. How do you compare here? There is always an element of unpredictability in even the most predictable things. And if you lived like it wasn't there, then life would pull the rug from under you. So you might as well embrace the 0.14159. So in order to make my next point, I think I'll have to tell you about who Grace Winters is. Grace Winters is a widow who she lives all secluded in her bungalow, and suddenly she receives a letter out of nowhere from a person she hasn't spoken to in decades. Now she is curious and she finds that a lot of things are opening up, a lot of avenues are opening up, but she doesn't know what she wants to do. But also she wants to be in her own comfort zone, and now going to Ibiza to find that house that person has left her is so far out of her comfort zone that she can't even begin to think of any other way. Now Grace has lost her husband, and a long time ago they lost their son as well, and so this whole thing is tinged with grief. She thinks about Daniel, their son, and Carl, her husband, and she reminisces about the things that happened to them, but also about what they would say if they were here. She's thinking about what she must do. She's thinking about the end of an era. What is she doing? Like, she is stepping into a new sort of era in her life, but does that mean that her old life has all been destroyed? And what does it mean when you are unable to move from one time period into another? What you should do to be able to move into another without destroying yourself. It's making me so emotional. I don't know how I'm talking like without breaking down, but this is great so far. Like, it's only 35 pages given, but it's great so far. I love it, and I cannot okay, no. Next was this quote that I've never thought of it like that, but that does make complete sense. Like, and I can confirm. Joint pain was like grief. The more you thought about it, the more it hurt. But you couldn't not think about it because it bloody hurt. Vicious circle. Once you turn that page, you realize that the Ibiza experiences are all coming from the author. It sort of made me sad, but it's also sort of made me thoughtful and happy for him, because he had a support system and he was able to emerge from that. And Grace ends up at that house, and the taxi driver says, and buena suerte is good luck. Oh, I hadn't asked for that one. He nodded. I know, but maybe you will need it. And I was like, what is going to happen? Like, I have predicted tears, but so to wrap up this section, let me just talk about time. Travel tesseracts experience. It explodes into the fourth dimension, and it becomes dizzying to realize how many nows are happening all at once. To think how many taxi drivers in every continent are talking into their radios right now. How many people are giving birth, or eating a sandwich, or writing a poem, or holding the hand of someone they love, or staring out of a window, or talking to the dead. This has happened to me so many times. Like, every time I set foot outside and I as much as see someone, or for example, every time I set foot on a train and I sit down and I see the people come and go, and I wonder what it is that they are thinking, what it is that they're doing, and then I imagine lives for them, like what their lives must be like. And maybe there are millions of people across the world who are doing this exact same thing. They're looking at their phones, they're reading the exact same website, but on a different train in a different city, or on a bus, or somewhere else. And it always sort of boggles my mind that that is possible, that happens. Okay, so that was the first 35 pages of The Life Impossible. There is so much more to come and I'm so excited to move further into this book. Hi there! So I have been reading as well as I haven't been reading The Life Impossible for various reasons, which I will tell you all about in a hot second. But this, I'm just so emotional reading this book. There are so many details in the story that the author has sneaked in that it just makes it impossible for me to just pause, stare at the page and go, you know that Shah Rukh Khan meme? Yeah, that. I feel exactly like that. But the reason why I haven't been reading this book. So, I was unwell over the past how many days. Being unwell doesn't stop someone from reading a book, does it? Especially one so anticipated as A Life Impossible is for me. But since I was reading this book along with my book club as well as I had to do the vlog, I couldn't move forward. So after page 100, I think, am I on page 100? No, not even 100, on page 94 where the chapter cuts off at glow, which is sort of a kind of nice interval it felt like for the book. There I had to take a break and I was longing to read this book but I couldn't for aforementioned reasons. But at that point I was like, what am I even doing? Like, I panicked and I started reading like 7 books in parallel and I haven't finished even one of them. Okay, put all those books aside. What about this book? I've got to prioritize this book, right? So I was like, you know what? Enough. Like, you were so excited for it. What happened? My brain is what happened. But I have made notes about the places where this one made me cry or made me emotional, one of those two things, in this notebook. First is this quote, which I'm like, I always think that the quickest way to understand someone is to look at what's on their bookshelves, especially if they are honest bookshelves, not the fancy ornamental kind. Like, I feel like this has been said before, but coming from Matt Haig, it has a different kind of impact on me. I don't know why. Okay, so a reference is made to a fictional book, which I'm assuming it was fictional, which it turned out to be true, but the book is called La Vida Imposible by Alberto Ribas. Am I in some kind of a bookception of sorts? Because a book within a book within a book, which is all leading back to the same cover. It had a crude cover. I disagree. It's a great cover. A badly drawn illustration of the sea and a rocky islet. Again, respectfully disagree. A view from a beach. The water had lines coming from it like it was shining. So maybe if I just quickly go through my thoughts, it's going to make sense in a very unstructured, disconnected, but all coming together kind of way. So I'm going to do exactly that. So what was in that olive jar though? Like, this is the olive jar that lent its name to the chapter and I am so curious as to what exactly is in that olive jar. What made it do that? Like, we know that Grace emptied the olive jar out near the front door. Things happened, but what was in it? How did it replenish itself? So when I read about Grace finding a letter at the end of the chapter called the olive jar, I was really apprehensive as to what was in it, and later on we find out what exactly was in it, and I don't think that sort of apprehension ever goes away, because what did the letter mean? There are a couple of places in the book where the writing feels repetitive. Like, I know I cannot believe I'm saying that about Matt Haig's writing, but it does feel like that. But my interpretation of it is that Grace is a maths teacher. Not everybody has the storytelling skill. Not everybody has the right kind of storytelling skill. So maybe this is an insight into Grace more than anything else. I don't know. Maybe I'm making excuses, or maybe whatever it is. It is still honest, beautiful writing, but sometimes it can just double down on itself. So the letter that we were talking about, it's from Christina, and she says in the letter, I know it won't make sense to you why I chose to leave this place to you more than any other person I have ever known. But you have to trust me, because if I explained how I know that you are the right person, you would think I was insane. At one point, someone on Fable or in my book club mentioned that there might be a magic element, and they were taking inferences from here and there. And I was like, but we don't know what Matt Haig intends to show us. I don't know what his intentions with the story are. And then it came across this, and I'm like, that person was right after all. Quote, everything is ridiculous after a point in life, unquote. Word. So Grace is kind of singing pains, or however you want to pronounce it, to mathematics, and then this comes up. And that is the most devastating thing of all. When the logical world we have sought out crumbles to dust in front of our eyes. How many times has it been happening in the modern world? Modern world. Like, you see the state of the world is burning, it's literally on fire, people are dying, others are killing them, there's a genocide happening, everything is happening, and the very foundations of the world are being shaken and they are crumbling to dust. Like, what logic is there in all of that? It's okay. I don't want to go there right now because I'm in a nice world, but maybe that is the whole point of art, of the whole point of literature, that it makes you think, it makes your brain to go in ways that you probably wouldn't have let it go before. Grace then thinks something, or she is telling her ex-student something that made me think, okay, what is it, or what have you seen that's made you think all of this, Grace? Why are you going into these depths? And this is what she says. Our human understanding of the world is incredibly limited, and there is a bias not to believe things that don't fit our worldview. What I'm saying is that sometimes we can't accept the truth that is right in front of our eyes, and that sometimes the mad people of one era become the sages of the next. And I'm like, what exactly is happening? Because this, as well as the fact that Christina told Rosella, the woman Grace meets at the supermarket who's at the counter, Christina told her to be nice to Grace. And I don't know why, but that kind of feels significant to me. Like, there is a reason for that happening. Or maybe Christina was just a nice person who decided to do this, and she wanted everybody she knew to be nice to Grace. So in the chapter La Vida Impossible is the first mention of extraterrestrial force, and there are other mentions of protests that Christina used to take part in, and I feel like this whole combination is sort of, it expands the scope of the story so much. Like, there's so much to explore, there's so much to learn from what the author is writing in here, and I cannot wait to move forward and read more of this book. Like, I don't know why I've been sleeping on it, or maybe that is the problem, I have been sleeping. Everybody seems to agree that Grace should stay away from Mr. Ribas. Everybody, like without exception, everybody that Grace has met has told her, okay, stay away from Ribas, Alberto Ribas, because he's kind of a character in himself, or something to that effect. But my question is it out of genuine concern, or are they hiding something? Is there some reasoning, or do they not agree with Ribas? Are they ostracizing him for whatever reason? Because the things that we don't understand, that Christina and Grace both have been saying in the book so far, Christina in her letter and Grace in her letter to Maurice, it sort of feels like they've seen something very inexplicable, but which the larger public doesn't want to agree or doesn't want to accept. I don't know what it is, and I am itching to find out what's going on. There is one point before the last chapter where I left off. The chapter is called Broken Radios. And there's a point where Grace is saying, the point of desperation is often the point of truth. When things are wrong, we need to reach rock bottom in order for change to happen. We sometimes need to feel trapped in order to find a way out. We don't meet ourselves in the light and air. We don't understand the radio when the song is playing. We sometimes need to smash the thing to see how it is made. And to that my comment was, to get better we must crumble first. And this sent me off on another tangent, because this reminded me of Sabaa Tahir's A Torch Against the Night, which is the second in the Ember Quartet, where there's this dialogue which says, if you survive, you shall be a force to be reckoned with in this world. But first you will be unmade. First you will be broken. And to bring these two together, two favorites together, it's somehow it made me emotional. I don't know why. It made me super emotional. Rebus is literally telling her that Christina went away. Like, who said she died? She just went away because she could see that she was going to die. So she went away. What does that even mean? Where did she go? Like, and then he's like, you will see. First up, please ignore that in the background. I've been using that and I didn't have the patience to fold it before filming this clip. But I have been making progress on The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. I'm at about 185, 87 something of that kind of page. And I realized that I haven't made an update video like this for this vlog in a while. So I thought I'd come on here quick and tell you what is happening in this book. But this book is so much more than what I thought it was going to be. There's a nature conservation, there is respecting the traditions, the culture of an island, of about knowing people but also not knowing them completely. And Grace is here on Ibiza and she is trying to find out what happened to her friend, and then something happens. She discovers something, and through that she is now slowly finding out more about the island and about all the lore surrounding it and everything. At first she's like, you do know that you're talking bullshit, right? But then as the pages go by, she is like slowly pulled into the story. And I want to say so much, but I also don't want to spoil this book because it's just, it's inexplicable. It's impossible to explain without giving away a spoiler. But there's so much about life that Grace is discovering, and her banter with Alberto Ribas, it's like top tier. I am enjoying it so much. There's something about him that has her bringing her claws out, and every time she's like snapping at him, she's scolding him, like, be serious for a second, or could you be quiet for a second? And it's like it comes off as a little judgmental, but then again there's a lot of things that she doesn't know and she's going into this blind. So there's a reason that she wants things to be sped up. Like, she wants the knowledge ASAP. I don't want sermonizing and the like, but you know, but there is quite a bit of sermonizing in the best way possible. I know sermonizing is used, I use it in a negative way, but in this book I mean it to be a positive thing, because there's so many things about life and mathematics, and you know, in the intersection between these two, that the truths are coming out about, and it's just brilliant. I'm loving this book. I've cried, I've teared up so many times. There is one place where I opened it and it fell open at that page. There is one page where the author says something about stardust, and I was reminded of Nikita Gill's poems. One of the most interesting and sentimental of all facts, one that I have always loved, is the one that says we are all stardust. The whole universe is inside us. Every element within us was made in a star. Nitrogen, calcium, hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and all the other stuff. We are made of deep space and deep time and have been forged in supernova, or supernovae if you're being pretentious. An element, as you no doubt know, is matter that can't be broken down into a simpler substance. They are the primes of the cosmos. We are made of elements. We have the unbreakable and the eternal inside us. We have the universe in our blood and bones. And oh my god, it just sent chills down my spine, because Nikita Gill says almost this exact same thing. And to see that my top two authors, writers, they have the exact same ideas, and I'm like, that is why I'm drawn to them. This is a poem which I'm going to read out by Nikita Gill. It's called 93% Stardust. We have calcium in our bones, iron in our veins, carbon in our souls, and nitrogen in our brains. 93% stardust with souls made of flames. We are all just stars that have people names. Took me out. Like, I have written it also. So as you know, I have a tendency to read late into the night, especially because I can't fall asleep. Like, I have sleep issues which have me staying up till 3 or 4 in the night before finally my body tires out, and then it's like, okay, fine, you can go to sleep. Anyway, that's not the point here. So I was reading at 1:30 a.m. and I burst into tears at this very simple exchange. So Grace has met Lika or Like, I don't know how it's pronounced, who is supposed to be Christina's daughter. And Lika is saying, she said you saved her life. I shook my head. I just gave her some company. Lika smiled a smile of infinite complexity. That is sometimes all it takes. And I was like silently bawling. That is sometimes all it takes. And then I was kind of a smartass because there is a chapter called Larger Than Thought where the author is talking about goats. So my comment on that was, a whole section or paragraph about goats checks out because Matt Haig is a goat. Am I right or am I right? And he talks about how the very existence of humanity is supposed to be impossible, but yet here we are, and we are on this rock spinning through space and all of that, and how we need to cherish it more. And I'm like, it is true, but going by how humanity is handling all of this impossibility and how they are hell-bent on being the worst impossible that is possible, that kind of makes me sort of put myself at a distance from this quote for some reason. A full-blown cynic has spawned from inside of me, so I don't know what to make of it. But there are questions that I'm seeing that I have written down, and I just want to put them out there, but also I'm like, if I put them out there, the whole plot will blow up and I'll be spoiling the book, which I don't want it to do so. There's a lot of physics and mathematics. There's an intersection between life, physics and mathematics that the author is using in this book, and although I'm following, but nothing is staying in my brain, so I have to keep going back and reading. There was something psychometry, like I am willing to be confused. Matt Haig would understand that, or anyone who has read this book would understand that. Just as some languages have words others don't have, some species have emotions humans have never known. A lizard, for instance, always seems to be in a simultaneous state of constant alertness and deep relaxation, totally in tune with its surroundings, both terrified of it all and in quiet love with it all. As humans, we think we know everything, like we are the all-knowing, we are the species who control the planet. Apparently it is somehow true, only thing is that we are controlling it towards destruction. We don't know it all. I believe if there is a God, you don't get to them by a church. You get there by the ocean or the forest. God is everywhere. If you believe that there is a God, then you should also believe that God is everywhere. Not just here, here and here. Ho ho! And this part, okay. This is like a part of the story, but if I read it out to you, it can also be taken as a whole section or as a whole speech on its own. But there is this whole chapter in which it's a short chapter, as Matt Haig's chapters tend to be, but there is a chapter called Mansions, in which Grace is talking about reading and empathy and feeling or living in the shoes of another person for a short while. So here's the quote. Whenever I read an autobiography, Maya Angelou or Anne Frank or Richard Feynman or whomever, I feel a kind of empathy where a tiny part of me becomes for a short while the person I'm reading about. I suppose that is one of the purposes of all reading. It helps you live lives beyond the one you are inside. It turns a single room mental shack into a mansion. All reading, in short, is telepathy, and all reading is time travel. It connects us to everyone and everywhere and every time and every imagined dream. And I was like, I'm done, man. I shouldn't be surprised at this time, and I am not, but it just fills me with awe every single time I read something like this from an author that I love. And then there was a page which on this side I wrote down below, can't highlight whole page, and then the next page I highlighted the whole page. Let me show you. The only explanation I have is that it was too much wisdom for me to not highlight it. Okay, so this is where I'm at right now. I'm at page 187. I marked it with a red tab. Overall, what I'm saying is that this book, this story goes to places that I didn't think it would go. I mean, there were signs in the very beginning, like there were like mysterious signs in the sense that people were saying she disappeared, her body was never found, and people like Alberto Ribas and everyone, they were telling that you don't understand this, but I'll help you understand this. There's something that you need to understand. If you want to know what happened to your friend, then come on with me, we're going to jump in the ocean. All of this it's just going in a direction which I'm really enjoying right now. And there's also activism and nature conservation that's a heavy part of this book, which I don't know if I'm supposed to be telling you, but then again, I don't know how that is going to tie in. Like, it could be a background thing as well, but I have a feeling that it is going to be an important part of the story. I don't know where, how, when, why, all of those, but I'm really looking forward to reading the remaining 135 something pages. Okay, so I didn't think I'd be coming on here so quickly after my last update because it's only been 15 pages. I've read only 15 pages since then. But in our Fable book club, which you should go check out by the way, we are on there as Drama Queenathon. I'll leave the link to the Fable book club in the description box below. Please go check it out. But there we had earmarked certain milestones, okay? And right now I'm at the third milestone, I think. As I turn every page, I'm loving this book even more because at right now, like, see, I can't even get words out of my mouth to make sense. But right now, a lot of things are making sense in this story, and a lot of things they are just coming together in a way that it's not that I didn't think they would, because I knew Haig was going to bring all of it together in an amazing manner. Somehow, does that make it better, or was that I had expectations before this? But there is a point where Grace realizes a lot of things and it just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing from there. See, that's the thing. I cannot give you anything at this point. Even after this, I don't think I can give you any details about the plot in general, because that would be such a big spoiler, and that is something that was a sort of a surprise factor for me, that things worked out like that. And I'm so excited to read the rest of the book. I have about 120 pages remaining, and I'm hoping I'll be able to finish it very, very soon. So basically what I'm saying is that at this point you will probably see me next only after I finish the book, because so the last update was just before something huge happened and Grace feels a little scammed, for lack of a better word. I mean, not lack of a better word, she literally thinks that, and she's like, why didn't you ask me all of this? Why didn't you tell me before making this decision? I was pushed into it without my consent, so what is going on? And she's, if I were in her place, I would have felt the exact same way, if I'm being really honest. Put all of that aside, put the greater good, put all of that aside, because that's a conversation for a different chapter, which we'll get there. But you pushed me into a sort of into all this thing, and I was not looking for something like this. Granted that sometimes you need to be pushed, you need to be shoved, in fact, into something else in order to make you do it. But this was, I don't know, it felt convenient that you scoured everything. Okay, it's not convenient, but it feels like that, you know what I mean? Now I cannot wait to see where the story takes Grace and what else she does in it. I can't tell you more. Does she find out what happened to her friend? Read to find out. So I'll see you once I finish the book, or if I have some amazing thing that I want to talk to you about, then I'll also come on, obviously. But at this point, I have a feeling I'm going to be wrapping this vlog up next. It's way too late into the night. It's about 2:30 a.m. and I just finished reading The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. I couldn't stop. Like this is the first time it's happened in quite a few days that I have opened a book, started reading, and didn't want to stop. And it is very fitting that it happened with Matt Haig's book, right? But there are so many thoughts I have about this book. Since it's 2:30 a.m., since my brain is a little hazy right now, the thoughts are all swimming around, and I am going to be doing a lot of fishing if I'm going to talk about it right now. So what I'll do is, to avoid that, I will give myself time to collect my thoughts, to gather my thoughts, and have a structure to it, so that I'll be able to come and tell you exactly what I thought about this book and what about it that I found so amazing. Because it's a Matt Haig book, I'm definitely going to find something or the other amazing, right? So yes, I will gather my thoughts and I will put them in a little section towards the end of the vlog. Hello people, I'm here to round off this vlog for my most anticipated book of 2024, which was The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. And this is a book that I'm so conflicted about right now, because I liked it, okay? I'm not saying I didn't. And I know that Matt Haig says that this is his best book yet, but I respectfully disagree. I still think that The Midnight Library remains his best work. And maybe it's a personal thing, because that was something that I was looking for at that point in time. It came, it found me, and I just related to it in ways that I didn't think before, etc, etc, etc. But this is a book that is so far out of that genre, or maybe not, because it's sort of fantasy in its own way, it's sort of sci-fi in its own way. While The Midnight Library talks about the possibilities of there being a midnight library between life and death, this one talks about the possibilities in life, in the world as we know it, and the arrogance of humans as to what we think is possible and is not possible, which is rather impossible. There's a lot of awareness to this story. It's something like human beings are not open-minded enough to believe that something that they think is impossible actually happens, and they will give every other reason except the most obvious reason for it to not exist. And this is a book that very reasonably shows us all of that. Grace Winters, at 72 years of age, up and leaving London because she has been left at home in Ibiza by her long lost friend, like a friend that she hasn't spoken to in about maybe I think 40 years, 30-40 years. And she wouldn't even call Christina a friend. She's an acquaintance from long ago. And there's a lot of self-doubt and life crisis through the middle of it all, and how she deals with these new revelations, and how she deals with what she's looking at with her own eyes, and her battle, whether or not she wants to believe it or not, or whether or not she should be believing it or not. And that is what this whole book is about, and it's well written. There are a lot of good things about it. I'll tell you about all of those first. First is the healthy amounts of life crisis, something that all of us at all ages are going through right now, at the state the world is in at the moment, and that sort of makes it relatable in its own way. And every single one of these short chapters, on a tangent, short chapters, because short chapters are awesome. Matt Haig loves writing short chapters. He loves reading those as well, as he has, I think, mentioned in his Instagram stories once or twice. And he's right, short chapters hold your attention. They keep you invested, because that one chapter, one more chapter keeps going, and before you know it, you finish reading the book. Before I went on this tangent, it's funny. Like, it hits you at the most unexpected of places, and then I burst out laughing. I did not see it coming, and that is what adds more color to this story, this whole story. And the way Grace treats the people around her, how her connection with the people in Ibiza grows, and what she is trying to do over there, it all sorts of comes together in a way that I really enjoyed. And yes, if you know what this book talks about on the overall setup, then you would say that, oh, this is such a preachy little thing to be talking about. It's a preachy subject, it's a preachy topic, but this doesn't preach. Okay, maybe it preaches, but it does that without being preachy. And those are the kinds of lessons that I'm willing to take. I don't want someone to preach to me like, oh, you should be doing this. Maybe in some places they should, but not always. Like, give me information, don't preach it to me. And this doesn't do that. And that's what I like so much about his writing. Okay, and there are also so many quotes. Oh my god, it's just like he is filtering through all the truths about life, and he just put all of them over here in this book. And to read about a character who's more than double my age, and to see herself put herself out there so boldly, and it was just life affirming in a way that only Matt Haig's books can be. Plus, the best part about this book, it has a magical storyline, and magical being the operative word here, and in which magical can be interpreted in multiple ways. And last but not the least, it talks about something that I think the world needs to focus more on, and it wraps it up very, very, very well. The reasoning that the author gives for all of it, and the feeling that he infuses into it, it sort of awakens something inside of you, and you want to do something. You want to go out there, march, protest, do something about it. Okay, the ultra introvert me sort of is laughing at myself right now, because she's not about to go out anywhere, especially given that she's also arthritic. But the thing is, this book makes you want to do that. And when you want to do something like that, when you want to do something on that level, there's something that happens up in the machinery over here. You start to try and find ways of helping even if you aren't going there, because there are ways to help even without going outside. In that way and more, this book is spectacular, and I see why Matt Haig claims that this is his best novel yet, because it's very aware. It just sort of touches your heart, it touches your conscience, it touches your morality, and in all of that, it sort of elevates you, the reader, a little as well. Having said that, I do think that, like I mentioned before, this isn't his best work for me personally. This is a book that sort of dragged over the pages. If it were like 30-50 pages shorter and crisper, it would have made for much more engaging reading. It also keeps repeating on certain points, and it gets loopy in places. Like the same thing, the details are mentioned again, and the storyline itself is also a little too wobbly in a sense. Like when you're sitting on a couch and you have like hordes of nails holding it up, but there's that one nail that's come off, and it's not exactly wonky, but you know that there's something off on some part of the sofa. So that's what this book felt like to me. There was something missing. There's a lot of soul to this book, that much I agree, and that much I will love this book for, but there is that one something missing, it felt like. So basically what I'm saying is that this book is great. I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I enjoyed reading it. I immersed myself in Ibiza. Like, it felt like I was there, and it felt like I was going on those car rides with Grace, and I was doing whatever it was she was doing alongside her. But there's still, like, it's not my favorite of Matt Haig's, unfortunately. I'll still recommend this because I do think it is a good book, but there's that thing that I mentioned before. So that was my reading vlog for my most anticipated book of 2024, which was The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. What did you think of this video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Have you read The Life Impossible? If you have, what did you think of it? If you haven't, will you be picking this book up after watching my reading vlog? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading. Keep watching and add melodrama to your life.